Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasha. Today we are doing a vlog style video. I need to recoup my energy. I've had a really busy past few weeks and I've been doing a lot, seeing my friends a lot, going out a lot, which is really exciting and I really enjoy doing that. And because of the cooler weather, it allows me to do more. I'm not as sick feeling. So I try and take advantage of it and get out as much as possible. But it's definitely caught up with me, and I need to just take a day in bed. So, what I've decided to do today is to challenge myself to a little reading vlog. And I picked 5 books that have been on my shelves for so long and have just sort of been calling to me whenever I think of, like, what do I want to read? I always think of these few books. So, I'm not saying I'm going to try and read all of them. I don't think that's possible to do I'm not even necessarily doing a 24-hour challenge. It's like 10 o'clock. I'm using my phone to film, so I can't check the time. It's like 10 o'clock right now. And if I make it to 10 o'clock tonight, it'll be a 12-hour reading challenge. And I'm going to try and check in every few hours and tell you what's up. So I think what I want to do first is tell you about the 5 books on my list and then what I'm going to start with. If I even finish one book, that'll be great. And potentially we'll just keep doing this little vlog style video once a month. And I'll hopefully have read some really cool things by the end of it. Before we do get started, I always like to mention thank you for being here. If you're enjoying me or the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe while you're here. It helps my channel grow. It helps other people find me. I do a lot of K-pop content normally, but I also am a huge reader. I love reading, and I actually have mixed those two passions into my Etsy shop where I make K-pop themed bookmarks, and this is the bookmark I've picked to use. It's my personal one. You can't get this exact one, but I do have some other I am Monsta X bookmarks. I love his little hand on his hip on the back. Anyway, this is my bookmark for today. You can get your own bookmark in my Etsy shop. It's linked down below, as well as my Patreon, where videos come out a few days early, and then some affiliate codes for Two Crow Collective, which is a chronic and mental illness merchandise brand that I am a brand ambassador for. I should have maybe worn one of their shirts today, since this is like a chronic illness, mental illness, just rest and recovery day. Maybe I'll switch into one of their shirts later because I am getting a little warm. Anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to say in the beginning. Let's start going through the books and see what my selection is. I picked 1 middle grade, 2 young adults, and 2 classics. So we've got a wide variety. Up first is the middle grade. It's called The Gallery by Laura Marks Fitzgerald, also the author of Under the Egg. On the back, it says, "Nothing is what it seems, and no one is who they say they are. An eccentric recluse, a self-absorbed newspaper tycoon, a shady footman, a mansion with a secret, and one girl who has the moxie to see everything for what it is." Sounds really exciting. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of mystery involved, and I just sort of fell in love with this cover. It's so intricate and beautiful, and I love just middle grade stories in general. I think they're so much fun, and typically speaking, I can fly through them, so I'm probably going to start with this book, try and get it out of the way before I stop for my food break at some point today, and we'll see what I pick up after this. Hopefully I can finish it. Let's see, it's 321 pages, which is pretty typical for a middle grade, I'd say, and it's pretty big print, so I'm hoping I can finish this in time, but I don't know. I've only been reading like adult romance recently, so my gauge of my reading speed per genre is not up to par. I don't actually know how long this will take me to read. Maybe this is all I read today. I don't know. But let's talk about what else is on my list. Wicked Fox by Cat Cho is also on my list. This is a young adult fantasy. Let's read all about it. 18-year-old Gu Mi Young has a secret. She's a Gumio, a nine-tailed fox who survives by consuming the energy of men, but she's also half human and has a soft spot for people, so she won't kill indiscriminately. With the help of a shaman, Mi-young only takes the lives of men who have committed terrible crimes. Devouring their life force is a morbid kind of justice, or so she tells herself. But killing men no one would ever miss in a bustling modern-day Seoul also helps Mi-young keep a low profile. She and her mother protect themselves by hiding in plain sight. That is, until Mi-young crosses paths with a handsome boy her age as he's being attacked by a goblin in the woods. She breaks her mother's cardinal rule, revealing herself and her nine tails to save Ji-hoon from certain death. In the process, she loses her fox bead, her Gumio soul. Without it, she will die. When Mi-young and Ji-hoon next meet, there's no doubt they are drawn to each other. But the tenuous romance could be over before it even begins, as Mi-young's efforts to restore her fox bead by the next full moon ensnares them in a generations-old feud, forcing Mi-young to choose between her immortal life and Ji-hoon's. An enthralling tale inspired by the Korean folklore and set in a rich contemporary fantasy world. Wicked Fox is an absorbing love story that heralds the arrival of an exciting new voice in YA. I've had this on my shelves literally for years. When did it come out? So long ago. Like, look at how pretty it is on the inside. That's the moon. Okay. Date. You're looking for a date. Came out in 2019. She's been around for a while. Next up is Iron Widow. This is a book my friend Allie highly, highly, highly recommends. And so, of course, I picked it up, but I haven't read it yet. It matches my sunflower behind me that I painted so freaking well. Okay. I also follow this author on TikTok and just think she's so fun and amazing. Okay. I'm not going to be able to pronounce these names, so forgive me. I'm trying to hold the books so you can see them as I read. Let's see. Someone's out for a little morning stroll. Good for you. Get your exercise. Not me. In H, we're just going to call it H. The highest honor for a young girl is to be selected as a concubine pilot. Supporters paired up with male pilots to power the chrysalises, the giant transforming mechas that humanity relies on to battle the massive aliens that lurk beyond the Great Wall. But the honor often ends in death. When 18-year-old Zentian's sister is killed by an ace male pilot, Zentian signs up to avenge her. The vengeance is swift, brutal, and unexpected, leaving Zentian labeled as an Iron Widow, a much-feared kind of female pilot who can sacrifice boys to power up the chrysalises instead of the other way around. To tame her unnerving yet invaluable mental strength, she is paired up with Lee Sheeman, the strongest and most controversial male pilot in H. But now that Zetian has had a taste of power, she will not cower so easily. She will miss no opportunity to leverage her and Sheeman's combined might and infamy, and survive attempt after attempt on her life until she can figure out exactly why the pilot system relies so heavily on destroying girls' lives and dismantle it for good. We love women in STEM. I know that's not quite what it's about, but that sounds bloody and deadly and angry and good. I don't know if I'm in the mood for that today. That could take me to some very interesting mental places for sure, but I also think it's a story I could get really, really lost in. Interesting. I'm glad it's on my list because I do really want to get to it this year. Up next, The Alchemist, a very classic. I don't even really know what it's about. I've read this once before. Let's see. Okay, the quote says, "To realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation." This isn't really a synopsis, though. Do we have a synopsis anywhere? Let me just read it. Okay. So, this enchanting novel has inspired and devoted following let me start over. This enchanting novel has inspired a devoted following around the world. This story, dazzling in its powerful simplicity and inspiring wisdom, is about an Andalusian shepherd boy named Santiago who travels from his homeland in Spain to the Egyptian desert in search of a treasure buried in the pyramids. Along the way, he meets a gypsy woman, a man who calls himself king, and an alchemist, all of whom point Santiago in the direction of his quest. No one knows what the treasure is, or if Santiago will be able to surmount the obstacles along the way, but what starts out as a journey to find worldly goods turns into a discovery of treasure found within. Oh my gosh. Lush, evocative, and deeply humane, the story of Santiago is an eternal testament to the transforming power of our dreams and the importance of listening to our hearts. This sounds so good. This is probably my second pick. I think the middle grade is number one. This is probably up there at number two. And I think coming in at number three is The Picture of Dorian Gray. I have just wanted to read this for so long, and I'm always a little intimidated by classics, so I haven't picked it up yet. Let's see, I don't think there's no description on this because it is, a classic. Let me just read what it has on the back. I believe it's a quote directly from the book itself. How sad it is, I shall grow old and horrible and dreadful, but this picture will remain always young, if it were only the other way. If it were I who was to be always young, and the picture that was to grow old. For that I would give everything. Yes, there is nothing in the world I would not give. I would give my soul for that. I feel that. So yeah, those are my selections. We're gonna start with the middle grade because I really think I'm gonna be able to just devour this, and I hope it's a great time. And I will check in with you once I'm like 50 pages in, probably, and we'll go from there.
I don't wanna see you while you fall apart. Even though you told me to get back your heart, I still spin inside your orbit. Yeah. You say that I should probably start to walk away. I'm hoping that you stop and make me have to stay. Cause I'm floating in your orbit. Yeah, I'm stuck in your space. Just my luck. Put me on where you understand. There's nothing left to say. Pull me back, take my hand. Come on, name, you understand. I wanna stay. Cause I don't wanna walk away. Cause I don't wanna walk away. Cause I don't wanna walk away. Yeah, I'm stuck in your space. Just my luck. Put me on where you understand.
Okay, it's almost 12:30, so I've been reading for roughly an hour and a half. I am like 96 pages through the gallery so far. In a weird way, it's not reading as middle grade-esque as I thought that it would. Essentially, the story starts with a person who works for the newspaper coming to interview this woman who's turning 100 years old. And then in the next chapter, we're taken back to the 100-year-old woman as a child who ends up working with her mother in this rich person's house. It has very interesting conversations about the Bible, about Adam and Eve, about feminism, about women being able to vote, about men thinking that women are hysterical, about women's mental health. The husband and wife who own this house, it's all her stuff. So her father passed away, everything now belongs to her. She had gone and collected art, which is the gallery aspect, from Pablo Picasso and all of these really famous artists from overseas, and she just sort of hoards all of the art now in her little bedroom by herself. And they have libraries full of books that are worth a month's wage each. And it's all a very interesting conversation right now of the mom of the girl. They're both maids in the house, but the mom knew the wife before she got sick and hysterical. And now they're talking about her potentially having schizophrenia or having seizures, and just any sort of change in her routine sends her into a fit. So the daughter accidentally forgot to add this special sugar to her oatmeal, caused her, the wife, to go down in their little elevator and set the kitchen on fire. So, some pretty heavy themes and topics in this book that I feel like are going to go over like middle grade kids' heads. If I was reading this, I definitely would not be picking up on all of the really like kind of gross conversations the husband and the doctor are having. And there's also a conversation about this girl and her mother and the absent father, who is sort of like on tour as an actor, singer, performer. He steals money when he returns to the house. He doesn't see the other kids. Like, no one was supposed to know that he had come home. And the daughter, because she had gotten in trouble, ended up getting sent home early from her shift, found him in the house, and because she's a child didn't realize like what's actually happening. So there's so many adult conversations happening in this book, and it's fascinating to read. So I'm hoping within another 2 to 3 hours I'll be finished with this, and then that's probably when I'll have like my food break. I just had a little snack. And then I think, I don't know what I'm going to start on next, but let's try and knock this one out, see where it's going. I I don't know. We kind of have some information, I guess, from what we were told in chapter one, like why this newspaper person came to interview this 100-year-old woman is because of like the big climactic thing that's going to happen at some point. So it'll be interesting to see how we get there. But yeah, that's my analysis and review so far. Not very middle grade-esque. Very interesting. So I just ordered myself some lunch. I think I'm just so close to being finished with this, but I think I'm going to take a really quick lunch break and see how this ends. This book has been wild. It's 3 o'clock right now, and I just really can't believe the twists and turns and how many references there are to other um, classical literature. Like Jane Eyre is obviously really apparent in this, and they discuss that novel. And it's kind of a play on Jane Eyre in a lot of ways, or a retelling. Also, the art references pomegranates and the significance of the fruit in art and literature. They do the story of Hades and Persephone, the Roman version and the Greek version. They take you to the MoMA. There's so much. There's so much happening in this one like middle grade book. It's kind of bizarre, but in a really exciting way. And we've definitely watched this character grow up through this story. So I'm gonna eat lunch and then I'm gonna finish this and I'll come back with my final thoughts.
'Cause I don't wanna walk away. Yeah, I'm stuck in your space. That's my luck. Push me away. You wanna stay. There's nothing left to say. Pull me back, take my hand. I wanna leave. You wanna stand. I wanna
Well, my voice is all weird because there are jalapenos in that lunch that I had, so pardon me. But I did want to read this little paragraph on the last page because I think it really sums up what the book is trying to say in general. So, um, here we go. Hasn't the world always been full of monsters and lies? Isn't it our place to fight them, to tell the truth, to rewrite the story, to ensure the return of spring in a world of winter? Honestly, all the themes in this book come back and back and back to that whole sentence. So, I'm going to give a full synopsis of the story. Obviously, you've heard a lot from me so far, so if you have intentions of reading it on your own, maybe skip this part. Essentially, the wife, Rose, has been locked up in her room by her husband, who is a newspaper mogul, and he has been slowly poisoning her for years. And no one believes that he's doing it because it just makes her look like she's crazy, the poison he gives her. And anytime she tries to escape, obviously, it makes her look crazy, so she can't win until our young main character starts working in the house alongside her mother and starts looking at the paintings that Rose will send down with other staff members to put in the gallery. And she only sends down very specific paintings. And the footman begins to explain the paintings to our young protagonist. And as they change, they begin telling Rose's story. So it starts with the pomegranates and Persephone, and then it moves in to just follow along with Rose trying to tell them what's happening to her and to get help. And our protagonist was the first person who actually not only saw what was happening, but made active attempts to free her and to save her. And it wasn't until her active attempts and failed attempts that the adults working in this home understood what was actually going on and saw the master manipulator husband for the monster he really was. And they also decided to band together to save Rose at the very end and actually leave our protagonist out of it and not tell her. And so she was she had lost all hope for a little bit. And then they had been scheming without her because she'd done so much work through the whole novel. And then they all worked together at the end anyway. A very interesting story with a lot going on. There were even a lot of discussions about race because there's this whole subplot going on about Italians being bombers, and then the footman, it turns out, is Italian. You find out his brother was essentially murdered by this newspaper guy because he made everyone believe that he was a bomber. Whether that's true or not, it's never like fully clarified. But the newspaper man just put out so many stories saying that it was true that everyone believed it, and then he got electrocuted. And so, in retaliation, this brother ends up working for him to try and undermine him and get his revenge, and he eventually does. But it was weird because trying to decipher as I'm reading, like, are these racial undertones and some of the language used in the novel, is that because of our character's ignorance? And is that where it's coming from to sort of portray the speak or vocabulary of the time? It kind of made me a little like, Ooh, I don't love all the prejudice, and I think that's the point though. So I don't think it's intentional in a bad way. Like I don't think the author is racist. God, you just really never know these days, do you though? But the way it came off to me is like we are observing a character who is a young person who is learning and who is growing up in a time where all this racism is very normal, gross. And yeah, that was a big one. Obviously, the other big one is the feminist sort of story and how much they harped on like women not understanding the importance of voting and not even having a brain to think about who they actually want and why one person would be better than the other as president. And then that ties into everyone, all the men in the novel, and even some of the women because they don't really have the autonomy to go against the men saying that Rose is crazy because you're going to believe a man because she's just a little feeble woman. Anyway, what this book, for it being a middle grade, has so much in it. I don't know how I would have done as a middle grader reading this. I don't know that it would have even kept my attention because it didn't really have any like magical or anything, any elements like that. It was very much a mystery driven contemporary novel, historical, about like the 1920s in New York. Um, I did enjoy it. I'm glad I picked it for my little reading vlog. I can't decide what I want to go to next. It makes the most sense to pick between these two books, The Alchemist and The Picture of Dorian Gray, because they kind of, I feel like, are going to stay on theme. We had so many other classic books mentioned in this, and art, and references to just literature and classics, and so many just things in general in that book that it makes the most sense to move into an actual classic. This book is, sorry, again, my friend, it's 167 pages. It is kind of small print, but there are pretty big margins in the sides. I don't normally care about the print of a book or the pages of a book, but since I'm doing a video and I'm trying to read as much as possible in this video, that's the only reason I'm commenting on it. This book is decidedly longer. I'm gonna guess 300. Oh no, two something. 262. Ends very abruptly. Like full last page looks like it could be missing pages. Hopefully it's not. Who knows? Let's see. Oh no, chapter 20 is the last chapter. This one, pretty small writing as well, and pretty small margin. So it's like there's a lot of text there. Not a lot of this is the other thing about classics that kind of drives me personally up a wall. This entire page has no paragraph break. Do you see that? No paragraph, no indentation. That's just all one thought. Yeah, that's the other thing about reading a classic like this is they really could just talk your ear off, couldn't they? First published in 1890. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe I'll read the first page of each and see what I think. That sounds like a decent plan. Let's do that. Okay, I did my experiment. The Alchemist one. The first page of Oscar Wilde did not keep my attention, which is no shade to Oscar Wilde, or Oscar Wilde, yeah, Dorian Gray. Um, but this one sounds like it's really going to keep my attention and be maybe a little emotional. Maybe it's kind of something I'm in the right headspace for right now. I think it's going to make me think too much. And hopefully it's short enough that I can just zip on through it. I was having a thought though. I was having a thought while I was reading those that if neither of them caught my attention enough, I haven't finished Dracula. So that sits on my bookshelf because I can only pick it up every once in a while. It's not a book I can just read straight through. I read it very sparingly, so potentially I could pick up Dracula and keep reading that for the rest of this little vlog and then just end it there. But I did try to convince myself, let's try and finish one more book so that I have another new book under my belt. Because I feel like I've just been rereading a series for so long, and it's 8 books in the series, and I'm on book like 5. So I feel like I haven't read anything new in a while. So that was kind of the goal of this video, to see how many new things I can read in 12 hours. What time is it? Let's check. It's 3:49. We're starting The Alchemist. Here we go.
'Cause I don't wanna walk away. Pull me back, take my hand, call my name. You understand, don't wanna stay. 'Cause I don't wanna walk away.
Hi, friends. Clearly, it's nighttime now. I ended up falling asleep. Before I fell asleep, I read 45 pages of The Alchemist. This book so far is. It reminds me a little bit of Siddhartha. I can't remember if that's the title of a book or the author of the book. I'll have to look into it more. Where it kind of is a story about a journey that really is just going to teach you about life lessons and about yourself. And even just being only 45 pages into it, that's very, very apparent. I definitely want to continue reading this and finish it since it is so short. I just don't think I'm going to do that today. I don't think I have the brain power after my nap to keep reading something like this. So I'm probably going to dive back into the fantasy romance that I've been reading every night and then actually just go to sleep for the night. So I think that's where I'm going to leave you for this video. I was able to finish The Gallery earlier today, and then I was able to read 45 pages of The Alchemist. I had a really good time. I'm hoping, I don't know necessarily that I want this style of like reading vlog to become a series on my channel, but I definitely want to do more vlogs. I have big ambitions of doing one every month, and I have an idea of one where it's like taking myself on little dates around town and seeing how many new places, not necessarily even new, some of my favorite places that I can go and show you guys in a month. And this is probably going to be easier to accomplish to continue doing reading vlogs like this. Whereas the like out and about videos I have to plan in advance. I'd have to film more days in a row, or not even in a row, just more days in general. So that's all like behind the scenes stuff I have to think about. Doesn't really affect you guys at all. It'll only affect what you're watching if I decide to do that, or if I decide to keep doing this. Because maybe the next reading vlog, since it'll be February, we'll try and do all romance, because I have so many romance books I haven't read. And maybe I'll try and finish this in the next reading vlog too. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was very cozy, very needed, and I hope I'm feeling better and just ready to take on the day tomorrow, since I gave myself and my body a chance to rest today. Life is all about balance, and I feel like this book is also going to be great at reminding us of that. Thank you for being here. I hope you had a great day or a great time watching this with me, or a good night. I'm going to see you guys next time. Bye.